My husband cheated on me with my cousin, so I took his property. I always believed that when you love someone, you show it, not just with words, but with actions. That's how I was with Lucas, my husband of 3 years. Our marriage wasn't perfect, but whose is? I thought we were happy. I did all the little things to make him feel special. I remembered our anniversary before he did, left notes in his lunchbox, and made sure I always stocked up on his favorite snacks after work. Even with my own busy schedule, I planned romantic dates and surprise getaways, just to keep that spark alive. So, when his 29th birthday was coming up, I knew I wanted to do something big. Something that would blow him away. I planned it all down to the last detail. A surprise party at his favorite Mexican restaurant. A custom cake decorated with his favorite colors, black and gold. A Rolex watch that he had been obsessing over for months. It wasn't cheap, but what could I do? You only turn 29 once. The night of the party arrived, and everything was perfect. Lucas walked in, and the whole restaurant erupted in cheers. His best friends, family, and co-workers were all there, clapping and whistling as he laughed, clearly shocked but thrilled. I had even gone the extra mile and arranged for the staff to bring out his cake at exactly 9 p.m., while playing his favorite song in the background. Everything was perfect. Until it wasn't. Halfway through the night, between the dinner and the cake presentation, I realized something: Lucas was missing. At first, I wasn't too worried. I assumed he had gone to the restroom or maybe stepped outside to take a call. But then. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. Then 15. My stomach started twisting. I checked with his friends at the table. No one had seen him leave. I looked around the restaurant, checked the bar, the main entrance, even the parking lot. Nothing. And then I remembered something. There was a back hallway near the restrooms. It led to a storage area for restaurant supplies, and I had passed it earlier when I was helping set up. Maybe he had gone there for some fresh air? I had no reason to suspect anything was wrong. Not until I heard whispers. Low voices. Too close. Too intimate. My heartbeat thumped in my ears. The voices were coming from the coat closet at the end of the hallway. The door wasn't fully closed, and through the tiny gap, I could see the faint glow of a phone screen. I should have walked away. I should have given him the benefit of the doubt. But something inside me, a deep, horrible instinct, told me to open that door. So I did. And that was the moment my world fell apart. Inside, tangled in each other's arms, were Lucas, and my cousin, Emily. Emily, who had grown up with me. Emily, who had spent Christmas at my house. Emily, who had helped me pick out my wedding dress. Her hands were on his shoulders. His fingers were gripping her waist. They were so wrapped up in each other that they didn't even notice me at first. When they finally did, it was like watching two deer freeze in headlights. Lucas's face drained of all color. Emily's mouth fell open, her lips still wet from their kiss. For a moment, everything went silent. And then, something inside me snapped. I lunged at her. I grabbed Emily by the collar and shoved her against the wall so hard that the coats hanging behind her rattled. "What the hell is wrong with you?" I screamed, my voice echoing down the hallway. Lucas stumbled forward, trying to get between us. Wait. It's not what it looks like," he stammered. I let out a bitter, hollow laugh. "Oh? So you weren't just making out with my cousin in a closet?" "That's not what I saw." Emily finally found her voice. "It just happened," she blurted out. I shoved her away. "You have no right to talk to me." Then I turned to Lucas, my hands shaking with rage. "Don't bother coming home tonight." His eyes widened. "Babe, please, let's talk. We're done." And with that, I turned and walked out. I didn't stop. I didn't turn around. I didn't let myself cry. I just kept walking. Because if I stopped, I might fall apart. I don't remember driving home. I don't remember anything except the empty, hollow feeling that settled deep in my chest. I didn't sleep. I just sat there, staring at my wedding photo, wondering how I missed the signs. Had he been distant lately? Had there been clues I ignored? Or had I just been blind? By morning, my phone was flooded with messages. "Lucas, please, let's talk. Lucas, It's not what you think. Lucas, I made a mistake, don't do this. I ignored every single one. Then, at noon, my mother called. She spoke softly, carefully. Lucas told me you had a fight, she said. What happened? I took a breath. Then I told her. Everything. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Then she sighed. We'll talk later. That's all she said. No shock. No anger. Just a neutral, calm response. And that was the moment I realized. This betrayal was only the beginning. After catching Lucas and Emily in the coat closet, I thought the worst was over. I was wrong. Because as painful as it was to find out that my husband and cousin had betrayed me, the real knife in my back came from my own family. 2 days after the disaster at the restaurant, my mother called me again. Her voice was calm but firm. Come over. We need to talk. It wasn't a request. It was that serious tone she used when she wanted to discuss something that really mattered to her. For a moment, I let myself hope. Maybe she called me over to say she kicked Emily out of the family. Maybe she was finally furious at Lucas. Maybe my family was on my side. I wasn't expecting a full-blown intervention. When I walked into my parents' house, I could feel it immediately. The air was thick, heavy. My father was sitting at the dining table, arms crossed. My mother stood nearby, pacing back and forth. From the moment I stepped inside, I knew, this wasn't going to go how I expected. Sit down, my father said, nodding to the chair across from him. I hesitated, then slowly lowered myself into the seat. I folded my arms, waiting. My mother stopped pacing and turned to me. We need to talk about Lucas and Emily. A cold feeling crept up my spine. I had assumed they were calling me over to offer support. To tell me that what happened was disgusting and that Emily was no longer welcome in the family. But the way my mother said it, I suddenly had a very bad feeling. She took a deep breath and said, Look, what happened wasn't ideal, but these things happen. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. These things happen? I repeated, my voice rising. I looked from her to my father, hoping one of them would look even remotely disgusted. Neither of them did. My mother sighed, almost tiredly. I know you're upset, but, if Lucas and Emily have feelings for each other, you can't stand in the way of that. I laughed. Not because it was funny. But because it was so goddamn absurd. You think there's some tragic love story? I scoffed. I turned to my father, still holding on to some hope that he would have my back. He just sighed. I'm not saying it's right, he said slowly, like he was carefully choosing his words. But holding on to anger won't help anyone. And that was it. That was the moment I realized. They weren't on my side. They weren't going to cut Emily off. They weren't even angry. They just wanted me to swallow my pain and accept it. My hands clenched into fists. So let me get this straight, I said, my voice trembling with rage. Lucas cheats on me. With my own cousin. At his birthday party. And your response is, these things happen? My mother exhaled heavily and sat down beside me. We just think it's better if we handle this calmly. That word. Calmly. Like I was overreacting to my husband screwing my cousin. Like this was just a small inconvenience. I pushed my chair back and stood up so fast it scraped against the floor. I'm done. My mother's face fell. Honey, don't be like that. No. I'm done with Lucas. I'm done with Emily. And if you keep defending them, I'm done with you too. I turned and walked out. And this time, I didn't look back. Driving home, my mind kept replaying the conversation. How could my own parents be so indifferent? My husband and my cousin had betrayed me. And instead of being furious on my behalf, they were telling me to just move on. I ignored their calls after that. Stopped answering their messages. Stopped going to family gatherings. I cut them off. The only person in my family who had my back was my brother, Ryan. That night, he called me. And the first thing he said was, Mom and Dad are acting like complete idiots. I let out a dry laugh. Tell me something I don't know. I just don't get it, he said, frustrated. Lucas and Emily are the ones who screwed up, but somehow, you're the one getting treated like the problem. They don't want to split the family, I muttered. Ryan snorted. Well, news flash, they already did. And then, in a serious voice, he said something that really stuck with me. They're just afraid of confrontation. You know how they are. They avoid dealing with real problems. That was the moment I knew. I wasn't going to waste one more second trying to get my parents to see my side. They had chosen to let Lucas and Emily get away with it. That was their choice. And this? This was mine. For a while, things were quiet. I ignored Lucas's texts. I ignored Emily's calls. I cut off my parents. Then, out of nowhere, I got a text from a blocked number. At first, I thought about deleting it without reading. But something told me to open it. And when I did, I almost threw my phone. I think I should keep the watch. The watch. The Rolex I had spent months saving for. The expensive, custom watch I gave him before I knew he was a cheating liar. This man had the audacity to cheat on me, betray me, and now he wanted to keep the gift I gave him? Not happening. I knew where he worked, a car dealership downtown. I knew he probably stashed the watch there. So the next morning, I walked in like I owned the place. Lucas saw me and froze. "What are you doing here?" he muttered. I smiled. "I'm here for the watch." I had already lost too much because of Lucas. I lost my marriage. I lost my trust in people. I lost my family's support. But one thing I wasn't going to lose. The watch. The Rolex I had spent months saving for. The luxury gift I had given him before I found out he was a lying, cheating snake. The fact that he had the audacity to demand it after what he did? I saw red. I wasn't letting him keep a single thing that came from me. So the next morning, I went to his job. Lucas worked at a car dealership downtown. He had been there for a while, selling high-end vehicles to people who actually had their lives together. I walked in like I owned the place. Lucas was standing near the front, talking to a customer. When he saw me, his face drained of color. I smiled. "Hey, babe," I said sweetly. "I'm here for the watch." His jaw clenched. I'm busy right now," he muttered, glancing around like he was hoping I'd just go away. I folded my arms. "That's fine. I'll wait." Lucas let out a heavy sigh, then walked over, lowering his voice. "You can't just show up here," he hissed. "I can do whatever the hell I want," I shot back. "I'm not giving you the watch," he snapped. "It was a gift." I pulled out my phone and showed him something. The receipt. I paid for it. It's in my name. So unless you want to explain to your boss why the cops are showing up to report stolen property, you'll hand it over. Now. Lucas looked like he wanted to punch a wall. His hands balled into fists. But he knew I wasn't bluffing. His manager was already watching from behind the counter. Lucas glared at me, then turned and stormed off. A minute later, he came back and practically threw the watch into my hand. "There. Hope you're happy," he spat. I grinned. "Oh, I am." And then I walked out. With my watch. With my dignity. And with the last piece of my past that he thought he could keep. I didn't keep the watch. I didn't want it. I drove straight to a jeweler and sold it on the spot. I didn't even care about getting full value. I just wanted it gone. And with the money? I bought something I actually wanted. A brand new laptop. Car upgrades, a spa day just for me. That night, Lucas sent me another angry text. "You're pathetic. You stole my watch. Hope you feel good about yourself." I didn't respond. But I did laugh. Because if he thought that was the end, he had no idea what was coming next. A little backstory. Last year, for our anniversary, I bought Lucas a sleek red coupe. It wasn't brand new, but it was immaculate. Sporty. Fast. Everything he had wanted. I figured, why not? He was my husband. He deserved it. Now? The thought of him and Emily cruising around in that car made my blood boil. Here's the best part, though. Legally? The car was still in my name. I was responsible for the payments, insurance, and registration. Lucas? He hadn't contributed a dime. So while I had been grieving our marriage, Lucas had been driving around town in my damn car, probably picking up Emily in it. That thought alone? I saw red all over again. The opportunity came faster than I expected. One afternoon, my friend Jenna, who worked at a local dealership, called me. "Hey, are you still making payments on Lucas's car?" she asked casually. I frowned. "Yeah." "Why?" She laughed. "Because I think his little girlfriend just brought it in for maintenance." My heart stopped. Emily. Emily had taken my car to a dealership. She had the audacity to waltz in like it was hers. "Jenna," I said, gripping my phone, "do not let them take it. I'll be there first thing in the morning." The next morning, I arrived at the dealership with every document proving the car was legally mine. Title. Insurance. Registration. Jenna had already talked to her boss, so the process was quick. Within minutes, they handed me the keys. And just like that, I had my damn car back. I drove off with a huge smile. Lucas and Emily would figure it out. Not my problem. It didn't take long for them to notice. First, Lucas called. I ignored him. Then came the texts. "Lucas, why did you take the car? We need it." "Lucas, you're being so petty. Just let us use it." Petty? Oh, the irony. Then Emily called. From a new number. At first, I answered out of curiosity. The moment I picked up, she exploded. "What's your problem? You had no right to take it." I laughed. "The problem is, you were driving a car I pay for." She screamed. "That's illegal." I smirked. "Actually, it's not. The car is legally mine. Maybe you should look up how ownership works." She started insulting me. Calling me bitter, immature, and a few other things that I won't repeat. I simply hung up. Because I wasn't about to argue with someone who couldn't even hold down a job. Later that night, Ryan called me, laughing his ass off. "Emily's losing it," he said between breaths. "She's telling everyone you stole the car and left them stranded." I laughed. "Stranded? Emily has 2 legs. She can figure it out." Ryan chuckled. "Well, apparently, they depended on that car for everything. Groceries. Errands. Even job hunting, though we both know Emily barely tried." I was dying. A few days later, my mother called. "You shouldn't have taken the car," she sighed. "They're going through a hard time, and you're making it worse." I rolled my eyes. They should have thought about that before they betrayed me. A week later, Emily tried to borrow money from my parents to buy a new car. My father shut her down immediately. Maybe, just maybe, they were finally realizing what a joke she was. As for me, I was still driving the car. And every time I got in, it was a reminder that I was done being played. That I was stronger than they thought. And that karma wasn't done with them yet. I thought taking back my watch and my car was the end of the chaos. I thought I had won. But karma? She wasn't done yet. And this time, she came for Emily first. It started with a phone call from Ryan, my brother. His voice was barely contained laughter. "You are not going to believe this." At this point, that phrase had become a regular occurrence in our conversations. I sighed, already bracing myself. What happened now? Ryan took a deep breath before delivering the best news I had ever heard. Emily got arrested. I nearly choked on my coffee. What? Ryan laughed. Shoplifting. My jaw dropped. Emily, the same cousin who had slept with my husband, had been caught stealing. "Oh my God," I whispered, stunned. "Tell me everything." Apparently, Emily decided she needed quick cash. Since I had taken back my car and left them stranded. So she walked into an electronics store, grabbed 2 expensive display model phones, and stuffed them into her purse. As if the store didn't have cameras everywhere. Before she even made it to the door, 2 employees were already waiting for her. They confronted her, checked her bag, and called the cops. Emily was handcuffed and taken straight to the station. Ryan could barely contain himself. "Can you believe how stupid she is?" he laughed. I was crying with laughter. Oh my God. She really thought she'd get away with it. She thought she was smarter than everyone else. Ryan snorted. Now she gets to explain herself to a judge. I had one guess. Let me guess. Mom and Dad? Bingo. Of course. Of course, my parents, who defended her after she slept with my husband, were now bailing her out of jail. Mom's excuse? She was just under a lot of stress. Oh, you mean the stress of stealing my husband? The irony was delicious. I had zero sympathy. Emily had spent her whole life getting away with things, thinking she was untouchable. Not anymore. After Emily's brilliant crime spree, Lucas started panicking. Apparently, her legal fees were adding up, and neither of them had any money. Since I had taken back everything I paid for, they were now living in a tiny, run-down apartment, struggling to afford rent. And Lucas? He started calling people for money. Ryan called me again, practically in tears, laughing. Lucas is calling everyone, begging for cash. I cackled. Who the hell would lend that idiot money? Literally no one. Apparently, Lucas had even asked my parents for help. And for the first time in history, my father actually told him no. That was the icing on the cake. The same man who thought he could betray me and come out on top was now completely alone. No support. No money. No car. And soon? No Emily. A few weeks later, Ryan called again. And this time? His voice was pure amusement. Emily dumped Lucas. I screamed, laughing. I had been waiting for this moment. Apparently, Emily realized that being broke with a loser boyfriend wasn't fun. Lucas was miserable. He had given up everything to be with her, his marriage, his reputation, even his financial stability. And now? She had thrown him away like trash. Ryan was practically wheezing with laughter. She's already talking to other guys. Lucas is losing his mind. Oh my God, I said, wiping away tears of joy. I love this. And then? Lucas did the dumbest thing he could have possibly done. He tried to move back in with my parents. Like a pathetic little stray dog. Ryan was hysterical when he told me. Mom and Dad actually told him no. I was stunned. Are you serious? Ryan nodded. I think Dad finally realized Lucas was just using them. So now? Lucas was completely alone. No Emily. No money. No car. No family willing to rescue him. The man who thought he could betray me and win was now at rock bottom. And me? I was thriving. But there was one last loose end. The divorce. Lucas had filed a ridiculous alimony request. That's right, he actually tried to get money out of me. As if I owed him anything. But here's the thing. I had proof of everything. Text messages. Witnesses. Photos from the party. And at the court hearing? His lawyer tried to argue that Lucas had sacrificed so much in our marriage and deserved financial support. Sacrificed what? I had to bite my tongue to keep from laughing. When it was my turn, I laid out every piece of evidence. The judge? Not impressed. In fact, she looked bored listening to Lucas's pathetic plea. She rejected his entire request. And with that final nail in the coffin, Lucas was officially out of my life. Final thoughts. Looking back, I don't regret anything. Lucas and Emily thought they could betray me and get away with it. But in the end, I won. Lucas lost everything. Emily ruined her reputation. My parents finally saw how useless they both were. And me? I sold the Rolex. I took back my car. And I moved on to a life without them. If there's one thing I've learned from all of this, stand up for yourself. Take back what's yours. And let karma do the rest. Because trust me, she never misses. Thank you for watching the video, like it if you watched the video to the end and don't forget to subscribe. Have a nice day.